Drink with James, episode 69. Keep your head out of the gutter. First things first, influencer conference. We have another one. There's another video, maybe Tim will link to it or something, a little one where I explain a bit about why I think you should go to this conference. We're doing it a little bit different. We're still having influencers come in, we're still giving talks, but it is going to be much more focused on actionable advice that you can leave with and feel like the next day you can put it into use. So it's going to be more almost seminar based than talk, like inspiration based. So we're really trying to, maybe I would say it's information, not inspiration based. So we want to be able to disseminate as much information as possible from our brains and from influencers' brains into yours in 8 hours. It's in LA at the LA Athletic Club, which is fucking dope. Somebody guessed that very quickly in the last couple videos ago, so you got some sort of discount and hopefully you come. But it's going to be amazing. Any questions, you can email me, you can email Tim, we'll throw those emails up here. We'd love to see you guys out there, put faces to names, but you should definitely come. If you're in LA and you're not there, I would be upset. That's all. Moving on. What's going on this week? Oh, one of our employees is getting married, Emma. I don't know if you guys have ever worked with her or talked to her, but she's getting married. So that's super exciting. I'm undergoing the Michelle Take Aim Instagram challenge. I'm doing 1 week of iPhone photos, mostly me focused, which is going to be a little strange, but as you kind of saw, I don't know if you saw the last video, a lot of good feedback on it. You should definitely watch it if you haven't, but she grew like 150,000 followers in a year, and the big change for her was going to 1 photo a day, iPhone only photos of her. That's it. She didn't worry about the feed, making the feed look pretty or consistent or anything like that. It was just, how do I optimize for the most engagement possible on every single photo, and that meant photos of her. So really interesting. If you don't follow her, you should. If you haven't watched the video, you definitely should. She's also speaking at the LA conference, so you'll be able to hear this talk in person and get to meet her and pick her brain a little bit. So that is super exciting. Something else, what else? You know, I've been seeing on Insta stories, I've been seeing a lot of people use this like vintage filter thing on Insta stories. I think it's stupid. I don't really get it. What do you guys think? I don't really like I love old shit. I have a Polaroid, I've got a record player, I dress like I'm in front of a fucking 1960s. Like, I like old things, but I don't like fake old things that much. I don't like making iPhone video look like a Super 8. If you buy a Super 8 and you shoot film, that's awesome. Upload that shit to Insta Stories, send that to me, I want to see it. But turning your like iPhone video into something that looks like a VCR. I've seen stuff that's like, looks like it was recorded on like an old VCR VHS tape, and I've seen stuff that's like, looks more like a Super 8 kind of. I just don't get it. I don't think it like makes it more interesting or visually compelling, so I don't totally understand the reason for it. I think people, you know, I was thinking about this as I was thinking about how I dislike that. I was like, well, who is doing a really good job on Insta Stories right now? I love Park and Cube. I don't know if y'all follow her. I met her in London. We both spoke at the same event. She doesn't have a massive following. She's been doing this for a long time. She's a designer and a blogger. Her whole Instagram is amazing. There's kind of two things, and I don't know how Tim can link to them, but she doesn't publish Insta Stories that often, but she has this format that is fucking bonkers, and it is so cool, and I've never seen anyone do anything like it. She recently said that a big influencer ripped her off and stole it from her, so I'm not sure who did that, but I follow a decent amount of people, and like, she's definitely the first person I've seen that's done this. She's also doing some really cool stuff with the galleries. I just think she does such innovative, wild stuff with Instagram. And again, you know, we were talking to Michelle last week, and her account is very much like, here's a photo of me, iPhone, but I think there's also the other side of like super hyper creative, and if you don't follow Park and Cube, you definitely should. I think she's always kind of pushing the medium and seeing what interesting creative things she can do within Instagram, which is really cool. But maybe stop with the fake vintage video. I just don't think it's doing anything for anyone. How do you know if you have product market fit? So if you've been watching the show for a while, you know I talk about this a good amount. It's a startup term. It's not like a social media blogger term, but I think it's applicable in this case. How do you know when you have it? So what we're talking about with product market fit is when, again, you have a product that the market really wants and the market reacts to that by wanting more and more and more of it. You know, in some ways it's an art, in some ways it's a science. We'll throw up average growth rates here for different following levels. So there's just the one thing of like, am I growing? And am I growing at a percentage that is greater than the average? Because I think that if you have true product market fit, you should be growing faster than normal people are growing. So there's that part of it. That differs across different followings, that differs across different locations. You know, if you live in New York or LA, you might grow a little bit faster than if you don't. And certainly different topics. Maybe if you're a food blogger, you grow a little bit faster than if you're, you know, a conceptual photographer. So these things are kind of different. So that's a caveat. I think what is interesting when you have product market fit, when you have something that works, is the feedback that you get. I mean, I think I've talked about this before, but it's been a while. We tried a lot of different things with marketing, and we continue to at Fohr. And some of them that I think are going to be really good. You know, we had this thing called the Quitters Club that was celebrating influencers who quit their job. I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was really cool. I thought the stories were really cool. It just never really worked. You know, the stories were kind of interesting, but, you know, they didn't really get shared around that much. They didn't get read that much. I was very surprised, a little disappointed. We had these I Quit sweatshirts, and we had this whole kind of thing for it. And then we did Drink with James, which was very off the cuff, just like, oh, let's film this thing, we'll see if it works. And the first one, I remember getting text messages and emails from people instantly being like, that was so good, like I really like that, like you guys should keep doing that. Like the feedback was pretty instant and it was very, very positive. So I think when you find that product market fit, I think you will start to feel like you're getting a lot of positive reinforcement, and that can be people commenting, being like, hey, you know, tagging their friend, you have to check this person out, you have to check this account out. You'll start to see stuff like that where like you're just not trying as hard to grow it, and it's just running away a little bit without you having to steer it that much. You know, Michelle kind of talked about that when she switched to, you know, doing photos of herself and doing iPhone photos, that like it was just growing thousands, you know, 1,000 or so a day. And she kind of felt like she didn't even know it was happening. It was just kind of running away from her. That is what product market fit feels like. It feels like something really special and interesting is happening, and you're not totally in control, but you're in this car and it's going really fast and you're trying to steer it. But it's kind of running without you a bit. So that's a tough explanation, but it is a pretty special thing when you find it. I think that a lot of people will never find it in anything that they do in their entire lives, honestly. But if you do find it, I think that like you know you have it, and you know it's time to like double down on something and really focus on it. So I hope that answer helps. I know it's a little bit vague, but like they said in the 1970s, when they were asking about like what constitutes pornography, and the congressman was like, I know it when I see it. It's similar to that. Like you'll know you have product market fit. It'll feel like something. You'll kind of know when you have it. So. How do you feel about following, unfollowing as a tactic to grow your following? That's a lot of following, unfollowing as a tactic to grow your following. I don't like it. I think it's fucking annoying. There's a few influencers out there. You know who you are. You follow my shit like once a week and unfollow me and follow me and unfollow me. I see you. I've seen your account. I've chosen not to follow it. That's okay. It's not for me. Doesn't mean you have to keep following me every week. I understand that the only way to convert new followers into your feed, into followers, is to get them to see your feed and to visit it. And one way of getting people to visit your feed is following them, because they're going to click on it. They're going to say, what is this? They're going to take a scroll through. They're going to open a couple photos. And they'll decide whether to follow or not. You know, does it work? I think it probably used to work a little bit better. I don't think it works that well anymore now. I think the followers that you get might not be great. I think a lot of the people who didn't get verified on Fohr were using bot services that followed, unfollowed, followed, unfollowed, and liked and commented. And the problem is it was following and unfollowing and liking and commenting in a place of the internet that wasn't super authentic. So they got, even though they didn't buy followers, they have all of these unhealthy like followers that, again, they didn't buy them, but like these accounts were set up as bots. So if somebody followed them, they followed them back right away. So I just don't think it works. I don't think you can trick your way into success. That's not how success works in anything in life. So it's a short-sighted tactic. It's a tactic, you know, like, and this is what we're talking about with product market fit. Like, tactics are fine, and like, you know, we're all trying to get that extra 0.5%. We're all trying to get that like little edge over somebody else. And that's fucking awesome, and that's what, you know, that will make a difference over time. But it's the fundamentals that really matter, and like following and unfollowing people is not going to get you to 100,000. And if it does, it's probably going to be a really inauthentic following that's not engaged at all. So it's not going to do any fucking good anyway. So use it sparingly, or not at all. Focus on your craft. Focus on what you're doing. Don't worry too much about the tricks, because they're just that. So. How does event charging work? When's it appropriate? So, you know, more and more now, there are influencers and there's opportunities to charge brands to go to their events and post. So, influencers asking, should I be doing this? When should I be doing this? How should I do it? We do stuff for clients all the time where we pay influencers to post. I think when it makes sense for you, you know, we talk all the time about how going to events and posting about them is a great way to get in the brand's good graces, right? I still believe that. It's one of the huge benefits of living in New York City, is that there's so many events here and you can do that, and like brands really do appreciate it because it's getting harder and harder for people to post at their events. Now the brands, you know, you think about an event, you could spend 5, 10, 50, 100, $500,000 on this event, building an experience or whatever it might be. And so they want to make sure people are posting. So the reason people get paid is that like they're just trying to guarantee that like people are going to see this, they're going to post about it, because that just happens less and less organically now than it used to. So when is it appropriate as an influencer to start thinking about charging to go to an event as an option to make money? I would say once you are big enough that you're no longer organically posting in events. You know, I think there comes a time in an account's lifespan and its growth where it no longer makes sense for you to be posting at events because that real estate is so valuable, and because those, you know, if you're doing one a day, you're doing 7 posts a week. You know, there's not a huge amount of room sometimes for the event stuff. So I think it would be when, again, when you're no longer posting about an event. And I think that generally the brand will reach out and mention that if that's something they want. If a brand reaches out and invites you to an event, don't come back and say, yeah, sure, and I can post for $200. That's tacky and annoying, and I don't think that's going to work for anyone. If they say, could you come to an event and post on Instagram, then you could say, oh yeah, absolutely, but I don't really post from events, so there is a fee if you want me to post from an event. And you know, sometimes those fees are a little bit higher because it is difficult to get good content in an event. That's just the nature of the beast. It's dark. You know, you're not controlling the lighting, you're not controlling the space, you're not controlling the crowds. Like all this stuff is kind of difficult. So that is something, if you do start charging, I think the prices are a little bit higher generally, just because it is difficult to do. But yeah, it should be like anything else you're charging for. I think it should be pretty organic, and I think once brands start reaching out and asking you about it, that's when you'll know it's a pretty good time to start thinking about charging for that more often. So once again, if you haven't looked at the conference, go to this link, check it out. We'll be announcing a bunch of speakers over the coming weeks. We're just locking in a couple last people and a couple availabilities and things like that. So I know, you know, if there's not a huge amount of speakers listed, we have listed a lot of the topics that we're going to cover. We're just finding and locking in the perfect people to cover those topics. But that is the kind of flow of what you're going to learn when you leave I hope you sign up. I hope I get to see you out in LA. Keep watching. Thank you. Send your questions. Cheers. I love you. Goodbye.